Hello and welcome back to my greenhouse. It is cold outside, so we're in the greenhouse today. It's currently, says it's 100 degrees in the back thermometer, but I've got the door open and it doesn't feel like 100. Either way, it's warmer than it is outside. As you can tell by the title of the video, I have done my seed haul for 2026. Quite the pile here of seeds I've gotten from various vendors throughout the interwebs. If you've been gardening for some time, you probably already know this. This is not going to be all my seeds. I will probably wind up picking up additional seeds closer to spring or throughout the year for various reasons. It may be a variety that may be out of stock right now, or it may be a variety that I decide I want to grow later in the year, wherever the case may be. But this is the bulk of all the new seeds I've gotten. Now I also have older seeds from last year and the year before, and I have my tray here filled with many of those already sorted and ready to go for the season. So if you stick around to the end of the video, I will show you how I organize my seeds, why I organize them the way I do, and when I'm going to start planting. So let's start off with one of my favorite vendors. They specialize in more vintage seeds, and that is Select Seeds. So from Select Seeds, I got New England Aster. I'm going to try to post up pictures here. This is something I've been thinking about growing in the garden for a few years. One of the mistakes I make, and again, if you've been gardening for a while, and maybe you make this mistake too, or if you're new to gardening, you probably will make this mistake, is I ordered New England Aster from a couple of different vendors. So I have 2 or 3 packets of New England Aster. This is okay because I have a fairly large garden, and if the deer don't eat these, which allegedly they're not supposed to, then I will be planting a lot of New England Aster throughout the garden. The next one is Geum Red Dragon. Geum is a plant I'd never heard of until a year or two ago, I think, and I was watching Gardener's World, British gardening television program there, but they mentioned Geums, and I'm like, what is a Geum? What is that? And then I Googled it, and hey, look, Select Seeds sells it. So it seems like it's gonna be a fun and interesting plant to grow. Something I've never grown before. It has a very distinct flower, so I'm gonna give that a whirl. Cleome, is that how you pronounce it? Cleome? Cherry Queen. I think I've tried to grow this before with little to no luck. So I'm gonna give this a whirl again. I can only hope that it does take and that it does grow, and it would be awesome if it does get up to its 5-foot height. Let's see, the next few is something I've grown here before, but I want to continue to grow more of, and it's a good plant that I can use to fill in gaps around the flower garden, as well as the front of the house beds, and that is dahlias, grown from seed. They're all mixes, so you got a watercolor mix, pom-pom mix, and a showpiece mix. Dahlias are easy to grow from seed. If you've never grown dahlia before, give it a whirl. They put on wonderful flowers. Now I'm in growing zone 8A, so I can leave them in the ground. If they do grow successfully, theoretically they'll build up tubers over the year, and then the next year they'll come back. So then they'll act as a perennial. If I lived further north where the ground freezes, then these dahlias wouldn't last the season. They would die at the end of the season, or I'd have to dig them up and bring them in to a sheltered space. But because again I'm in here in growing zone 8A, they should theoretically be like a perennial and keep going. Now I planted a bunch of these last year of different varieties, so we'll find out this spring if they all pop up. Next one is tall Coreopsis. Again, another variety I've tried to grow before with no luck whatsoever, so I'm going to give it a whirl again, because if I can get it to grow and it grows to its full 8-foot height, that will be absolutely incredible. The next one is an aromatic aster. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what this looks like, but you guys are probably looking at a picture right now. Hopefully, because it's aromatic, the deer don't touch it. We're going to find out. Then there's Foxglove Cottage Mix. Now, I already have Foxglove in the garden, but Foxglove is a biannual, so if you plant it one year, it'll leaf out. The second year, it'll flower, and then it'll all die back. But the seeds from that flower will go on to the next year and flower. So you'll have a gap year in flowers, theoretically. So if you plant like every year, then you remove those gaps. Foxgloves, you can't go wrong. Lovely plant. The bees absolutely love them. Now, I didn't buy a lot of sunflowers this year, but one of the sunflowers I did get was terracotta. But this one, I don't know, just tickled my fancy, so I got it, so I'll be trying to grow that one. Another old variety of flower that isn't so popular anymore, but I do absolutely love it, and I want to grow big masses of it, is Rose Campion. I had some of it flower last year in front of the house. It's absolutely beautiful. I shook out the seeds in place, so theoretically this year in that one location in front of the house, the seeds themselves should start coming up, but we'll find out if new ones come up this year and then it does flower. Another plant that I got a lot of this year was marigolds. From Select Seeds, I got 2 packets of lemon gem. I absolutely adore lemon gem. When you brush your hand across them, they smell like lemons. Gonna grow a lot of lemon gem if I can this year. I will probably have most of them here in the raised beds in the vegetable garden, because marigolds are supposed to help keep pests away. Plus my raised beds being so high, as I walk by I can just brush my hand across them and just get that wonderful, wonderful odor. Something else I'm going to try this year, which I've never done before, but I'm going to give it a whirl, is I'm going to grow some petunias from seed. This one variety I have is called Rainmaster. Another variety I'm growing that I've never grown before is Rattlesnake Master. Another very tall plant, 4 to 5 feet high. So I didn't buy a lot of zinnia seeds this year because I still have a lot of zinnias, but some zinnias you just look at and you go, I have to get them. So this one was Chippendale, and I believe it's a short one, 1 to 2 foot tall. It just looks fun. It just looks like a fun plant. So we're going to give that one a whirl. Maybe I'll do that in pots and I'll have that up on the back deck since it's so short. I can't plant that out in the flower gardens because the deer will definitely come and assault them, but maybe I'll put them in the new redesigned rose garden. I still have to come up with a plan for that rose garden, which I'll probably be doing in the next few weeks. And once I do, of course, I'll share that with you. I'm always trying to grow more and new varieties of poppies. Unfortunately, I have like a 70% failure rate with poppies. Last year I had a lot of American Legion come up in one of my flower beds. Absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. And I let them self-seed. So that means once that last freeze really passes, they really should start coming to life. And then before you know it, I've got poppy flowers coming up. But anyways, so I got 4 new varieties of poppies that I've never grown before, and I'm going to try to grow them this year. Royal Wedding, it's an Oriental poppy. Bowling Ball, Bridal Silk, and Hungarian Blue. If the seed takes, then this should be an awesome display of early spring flowers throughout the garden. If you're still hanging with me and you've noticed there's been a lot of cuts so far, I'm having a very hard time talking today. I don't know why, so when I edit, I try to cut out all my ums, ahs, and misspoken words. So please bear with me, and hopefully I can get through this today. The next vendor is a vendor I really enjoy dealing with. The vendor is Pine Tree Seeds, also known as superseeds.com, I believe. From them, I picked up 2 different Profusion zinnias. Now, if you're not familiar with Profusion zinnias, they are a short, low-growing zinnia. And last year, I grew several of them in pots. I got Profusion Red. Absolutely loved them. They went from spring right on through till fall. They were absolutely wonderful. This year, I got Profusion Double Yellow and Profusion Double Red. I'm really looking forward to planting these up and growing them on as well. Now, Echinacea, in my area, the deer eat. They just love to eat Echinacea. I've tried growing Echinacea in a bunch of different ways, but I really like the flower. And last year I was able to get some of the traditional purple coneflower to grow here in the vegetable garden, protected from the deer by the fence. And hopefully this year I'm going to get the rose garden completely enclosed. So maybe I'll wind up putting some Echinacea in the rose garden this year. But instead of just doing the regular purple, which I have plenty of seed of, I got this one called Artisan Red Ombre. It looked pretty spectacular to me. I thought, how could I not try it? Gonna give that one a whirl. I have Foxy Foxglove from Pine Tree Seeds. Then I got Scarlet and Yellow Swizzle Zinnia. Another variety of zinnia I've never heard before, but it looked really pretty. So I added that. I'm adding that to my zinnia collection. And then you may notice behind me here, I have some Pelargoniums, geranium. First time I grew them last year from seed, really loved them. So I thought I would grow more. And this year from Pine Tree Seeds, I got Multi-Bloom White geranium. So I'm going to give that a whirl, see how that works. They may take, they may not take. If they do take, bonus, and then I'll have to get more beautiful geraniums. Now, here's a vendor that you may or may not have heard from. I really didn't hear from them until, well, 3-4 years ago at least, maybe a little longer. But either way, they're an odd vendor in the sense that they don't sell a lot of your classic like zinnias or marigolds because they focus entirely on native plants. Grasses, I think they have some shrubs, various flowers. So if you're looking for some native plants to grow in your garden, Prairie Moon Nursery is a great vendor for that. That's their whole thing. They don't have marigolds, they don't have zinnias, they don't have rose campion, but they'll have a variety of native grown grasses, native flowers, and native trees and shrubs, I believe. So check them out. But from them I got great coneflower, Rudbeckia maxima. The pretty awesome thing about this plant is it's supposed to get up to 6 feet tall. Allegedly deer resistant, we're gonna find out, but 6 foot tall flower, I'm all for. I love giving any height that I can get to my garden is going to be much appreciated. Since I love the pelargoniums, I wanted to grow more geraniums, but planting or trying to overwinter pelargoniums in the greenhouse every winter can be, well, if I let it get out of control, which I probably will, a bit of a hassle. If there was a geranium, an actual geranium that I could grow on the ground, which would come back year after year after year without me doing anything to it, that would be awesome. So I got myself some wild geranium seeds. These are actual geraniums, not pelargoniums. They're also known as hardy geraniums. So theoretically, if they do take, if they survive, if I can grow them in the garden, then they should come back every year after year because they can take and survive a frost. And then the next one, which I've tried growing before, little to no luck, and I think the deer do eat this, although it does say deer resistant. We're gonna find out. Rose milkweed. So if I can get the seeds to take and if I can grow the plants on, I'll probably grow 1 or 2 here in the vegetable garden protected, and then maybe a couple out in the flower garden. If the deer eat the ones in the flower garden, then the ones in the vegetable garden will be fine, but this is a favorite of most butterflies. But if I can get this to grow, this will be another awesome addition to the garden. Now for a vendor that many of you have heard from, Johnny Seeds. Johnny Selected Seeds. From them I got Verbena bonderosis. I have Verbena bonderosis out in the garden, but it's like I have a few here, a few there. I really want to fill in again more of the gaps and add more height to the garden in various places. So I'm going to be growing more verbena. Oh, and then I found on their site, which I've seen nowhere else, Dahlia Giant Hybrid Mix. So those dahlias that I mentioned a moment ago from Select Seeds, they only grow about 2 foot tall. This giant hybrid mix apparently grows up to, I don't have my glasses on, but I believe it's 3 to 4 feet tall. And as I mentioned before, I really like the geraniums, so I'm going to be growing 2 different colors. Now the variety I have in the back over here is Maverick Red. So from Johnny's I picked up Maverick Salmon and Orange. So I'll have now 3 different colors of the Maverick variety. Another one of my favorite vendors is Burpees, and they're a really old American seed company. They actually go back to the 1800s, I believe mid 1800s, possibly late 1800s. But either way, from them I purchased a special flower here that they made for the 250th American birthday, which is called Freedom Verbena. This one is a short one. It only goes up to possibly 22 inches tall, so it's a short verbena, but nonetheless pretty, and I think it'll look nice maybe in some pots. Another flower I'm going to grow this year that I've never grown before, going to give it a whirl, Impatience. Salmon Splash Hybrid. Never grown that before. We're going to give it a whirl. May work, may not work, but we're going to give it a try. Then I got Coreopsis Ruby Kiss. I believe I've grown these in the garden before. Another zinnia, Starlight Rose. I just couldn't resist the colors and the way this zinnia looks. So Starlight Rose, there you go. Then I got myself another geranium, Big Red Hybrid. And then yet another plant that I have never grown before, Pentas. And I believe I saw this one over at Longwood Gardens, and I really liked it as well. So I'm going to give it a whirl. I think this will be a great front of border plant. So now from one of the more unique seed vendors that I've run across is Baker Creek Seeds. They sell mostly vegetable seeds, although they do have a fairly good selection of flower seeds. If you're looking for a really different and obscure kale, they have it. If you're looking for a strange tomato, they have it. If you're looking for something that is different from the norm that everybody else seems to be growing, they will have it. So from Baker Creek Seeds, I got my Chadwick tomato and spoon tomatoes that I grew last year. Now I really enjoyed both. The spoon tomatoes are really fun. They're very, very tiny cherry tomatoes. They're very fun. But I learned last year that they grow very, very, very bushy. I believe they're indeterminate, which means they just keep growing, 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 growing. They become very bushy. So this year I won't be planting them as close to some of the other tomato plants as I did last year. Wonderful tasting tomatoes, both these varieties. and fun to grow. I got Marigold Bambino. Absolutely love the variegated colors. Marigold Dune Yellow. I feel like there's another marigold in here. Yep, Sugar and Spice. Keys Orange. I don't know what attracted me to this one. Maybe it was the name that just triggered something in my brain. So I got a lot of marigold seeds. I also got a basil I've never grown before, and this one is for decorative purposes throughout the garden, probably in the flower garden to help fill in various spots. But it's Purple Ball, and it just looks like fun, so I'm going to give this one a try this year. My free seeds from Baker Creek. Now, if you've never ordered from Baker Creek before, if you order a certain amount, they will give you some free seeds. It's total random. They pick what you get for free, so you have no choice into what they give you, but it's fun to get free stuff. Since I ordered over a certain dollar value, I actually got 2 packets of free seeds. So the first one was Henderson's Black Seeded Simpson. It's a lettuce. So I'm going to give that a whirl this year. I'll probably start that off in early spring. We'll see how it does. The other free seed that they gave me, and which is one I will be growing. I have a neighbor who loves peppers. Is pepper datil. Daddle maybe? I don't know. But either way, it's a free seed from Baker Creek. I'm going to give it a whirl. I have a neighbor who likes hot peppers. In fact, for him this year, I will be growing I can't pronounce the name, but it's also known as ghost pepper. Apparently he loves to make hot sauces and he likes ghost peppers. So I will be growing him ghost peppers this year. Then I think it was the color that attracted me. And I don't know, I think I've grown this before, and deer will eat it, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. But it's Gaillardia Arizona Red Shades. Again, the flower I really liked, but I'm going to have to be careful with the deer, and I think the deer will eat this one. I'm not sure, but I'm going to grow it. The next one is a salvia that I've never grown before, Amore Rose Bicolor. I think the bicolor sort of tickled my fancy. These are small salvias. It just sort of tickled me, and I thought, I'm going to give it a whirl. Now that's it for all the seeds I've ordered up to this point. I may or may not order additional seeds, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, later in the year. One of the things I often like to do, and if you're new to gardening, this is a tip for you guys. Keep your eyes open. I believe it's around early summer or so that a lot of the vendors, they start to have clearance sales. They'll start to have sales on seeds that didn't sell in the springtime or the winter or the springtime, and they're looking to thin out their warehouses. Definitely by the end of the year, come the fall, that's when all the vendors really start slashing their prices, because they really start looking to clear out the 2026 stock in preparation of 2027 stock. I can't believe I just said that. Time flies when you're having fun gardening. Now, for my caddy here. This caddy, it's a little bamboo box here, and I picked this up over at Garrett Wade. Not sponsored, but it tickled my fancy because it had one big open side, and then over here it has lots of slots. If you guys haven't checked out the Crock Gardener yet, I'll leave a link here and below in the description. Go check out the Crock Gardener. He just recently put out a video where he described how he sorts his seeds. I believe it was part 1. There might be a part 2 coming up soon if it hasn't already aired. But either way, he described how he sorts his seeds and how he organizes his seeds for seed starting. I actually do a similar method. So what I've learned to do to organize my seeds is a couple of different things. What I like to do is, first and foremost, let's see if we can do this right here. I got some cardstock, really cheap, local craft store or Amazon or something. I can't remember. I made hopefully you guys can see that, like a P-Touch label. You can handwrite them too if you have nice handwriting. I don't have particularly nice handwriting, but I created these little cardstock things so I could then, when I have to use my iPhone for this one, create labels for weeks. Because if you look on the back of the packets, they give you generally a description of the seed, they give you planting instructions, and they tell you if you're going to be sowing indoors, how many weeks to plant them before your last frost. So if you don't know what your last frost is, you can go to any search engine, type in last frost, your zip code, and it'll tell you your estimated last frost date is going to be this. I think mine this year, is April 1st, maybe? Yeah, I think mine is April 1st. Take that number, that last frost, and count back from there. My last frost last year was actually March 15th, a whole month before they said my last frost was going to be. But they're making a guess based on historical records and the current weather trends, etc., they're guessing that your last frost will be this date. Use that date. If you want, you can go a week or two beyond that. If you're unsure, especially if you live in a colder climate zone where you may get a late snow or freeze, something like that. So you can always say, okay, my last frost is going to be May 1st. You can go in a couple of weeks after that and then count back from that day. So if they say to start a certain type of seeds 10 weeks before your last frost indoors, then go from that date all the way 10 weeks back, and that's when it's safe to start your seeds indoors. And they'll always do it in increments. They'll say 2 to 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So I created the tags that you just saw based on that. And then what I do is I go and look at the back of each seed packet, and if the information is not on the back of the seed packet, then I just go over to Google and I type in, when do you start X indoors? It'll say 10 to 12 weeks, it'll say 4 to 6 weeks, whatever it is. Yesterday I was sorting a lot of my existing seeds that I had, not even the seeds I showed you today, just my existing seeds, and I found that a lot get started 4 to 6 weeks out. A lot of vegetables will get started 4 to 6 weeks out. Tomatoes, herbs, dahlias, what else we got in here? Snapdragons. So they all go in that 4 to 6 week bin. So if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, but if I go with April 1st and I count 10 to 12 weeks back, I wind up with the last week in January, maybe, or this week in January. Either way. We're getting right close to that time where I start seed sowing. The other thing I do, because I'm in growing zone 8A and I have a very long growing season, let's say from April 1st to possibly November 30th, is I will sow some seeds directly in the ground after last frost. If you live in a colder zone, then you're going to want to start all your stuff indoors, and then this way you have as a plant of a certain size to then plant outdoors because your season is shorter. But I have a fairly long growing zone, so I will plant many of my seeds after last frost. So zinnias I won't even think about starting until like April 1st. Once I start them, they catch up pretty quick with the heat, and they'll get to a substantial size plant. So by the end of April, early May, I could be planting them out in the garden. Sunflowers I've directly sown before. Last year I had, for some reason, something attacking them when they were coming up and eating them. So I may wind up doing the same thing I did last year, which was start them in pots up on the potting bench. And then once they get to a certain size, then plant them out, which is fine. Again, I have a very long season, and I'll probably do the same thing I did last year, which is stagger my sunflowers. So I'll start some 1 week, I'll wait a couple of weeks, start another batch, I'll wait a couple of weeks, and this way I will have a flowering sunflower from, let's say, early summer right on through till fall. The other thing I'll tend to do is I will clip together with like a little binder clip. And this way I know I've got all my zinnias in one group. You can use a rubber band, you can use paper clip, whatever you want to do if this is what you want to do, but I group all of them together. This way when it comes time to plant the zinnias, I just grab the one package out of my box, it's ready to go, and I don't have to go hunting through to make sure I got all my zinnia flowers. And then another thing I will do is write myself sometimes notes. So I'll put just a post-it note here, and this note here says, this is for peppermint and a regular mint, common mint, and this says, sow in pots, big pots, after the frost. So I'm not going to worry about these seeds until after the first frost. It'll probably be the second or third week of April that I may get around to these, and then I will sow them into large pots. They'll probably go up on the back deck with many of my other plants. So the one thing I forgot to mention before about counting backwards, but as the crock gardener does, I too go into a calendar. Now he does his on paper, but I will do mine on the phone. I will go back in the calendar and I will pick a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even a couple of times during the week. But I'll say, okay, on this day, sow these seeds. And then a couple of days later, on this day, sow these seeds. And then again, according to the weeks back that you're supposed to start them indoors. Sort them out this way, put reminders on all of them, and this way when my phone goes off, I'll look at it and go, oh, today I'm supposed to sow peppermint seeds or sage or tomatoes. Whatever it is, I'll get a notification and I'll go, all right, I'm a little busy today, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it that day, whatever it is. But at least now I have it someplace where I can look at it and then plan my week around it. So it's just a guide, as it were, to help me keep myself fairly organized because I have so many different types of seeds to sow. Some of these will be direct sow, some of these will be starting in seeds. Now the ghost peppers, they say start 8 to 12 weeks in advance of your last frost date, and they won't sprout allegedly 10 to 14 days. So somewhere in that range, 10 to 14 days, they will sprout, and it'll take them approximately 120 days to reach full maturity. That means that in 120 days roughly, they'll be large enough, they'll start flowering, and then you may start getting fruit. That is 36, 4 months roughly. So I'll be starting these seeds as well as foxgloves and a couple of others next week, which I believe is my 10-week mark, maybe. I'd have to go back in the calendar and look. But either way, you guys, I think, get the point. This has probably been a long video, so I do apologize for that. If you stuck around with me to the end, thank you very much. If you guys have any questions or comments about anything I'm growing or how you guys sort your seeds or anything like that, please let me know in those comments below. If you're wondering where I got this snazzy looking sweatshirt, head over to growinggreenfinger.com. Right there on the homepage, you'll see shop for t-shirts, sweatshirts, etc. Click that button. It'll take you over to the store where you can then go ahead and pick out your own merch, as it were. This one says, annoy the establishment, grow your own food. And for those of you who are still sticking around, update on the potting shed. The windows are installed. I still have some minor work to do and sorting and cleaning and organizing for the potting shed, which I'll do this week. And then this upcoming Friday, do the big reveal on the potting shed. So mark your calendars. If you haven't, again, hit that subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button. With all that being said, I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.